Right, what else? Topic? Right, so you'll get away with saying the word hobby in a non-English speaking country, but if you do that in Sydney and you say to a girl, what's your hobby? You're a dad. You hear me? Right, because it's not cool in Australia to say, oh, so what are your hobbies? She's like, okay, uncle. Yeah, it's like, it really is an uncle conversation, you know, it's like, what's the niece or niece? Oh yeah, how you doing, Fatima? Yeah, haven't seen you since last Christmas, so yeah, how's university? Oh, right, yeah, and is there any good jobs that you can get with that? Gender study, what? Okay, yeah, all right. And so what are your hobbies these days? And she's like, oh, Uncle Boring. So what's a cooler way to say, what are your hobbies? Okay, let's talk a little bit about dates in general. Right, so what do you think is a bad, what are some of the elements that might make a it's not necessarily bad, but like an ineffective date?
It's where you're not going to be conversing with each other, like going to the cinema.
Right, so you're going to the old classic sitting with each other in a movie. It's not a good first date.
You're not doing anything.
No, you're literally not doing anything. And also the movie affects your mood. So it might, and you know, it can be a shit movie or a sad movie or a something movie where you come out both going, oh, it's not like you're in a different kind of trance state, and yeah, you're not talking. Okay, what else?
Sitting opposite each other at dinner.
Yeah, so I generally avoid eating dates. Like snack dates are fine, but having a meal dates, it's not that I never do them, but I tend to avoid them. Like that's why, you know, my standard date is a coffee and a walk, or one drink at that cool cocktail place, and let's go back to my place and check out the lizard. Like, yeah, yes, that's my standard date. Now, sure, I have even in living memory had first dates where we ate a meal. All right, it's not that you could never do it, but ideally you don't want to be sitting opposite somebody. Opposite is the killer, especially when there's a bigger table, because we're staring at each other, this strange interview. And then depending on the country, like it can take a long time. Like in the US, maybe I do a sit down because the service is so fast and everything happens so amazingly. But in Eastern Europe, like you stressfully have to get the attention of the waiter, and that takes 20 minutes. And then he comes over and goes, yeah. And you're like, can we? He's like, and then he goes again. You're like, oh fuck. And then by the time you've ordered, then you know it's 45 minutes before the entree arrives. And now we've had to sit awkwardly opposite each other, making polite conversation. Right, so we don't want that. So generally sitting next to each other in a booth or on a bench, or sitting, what's that? Perpendicularly to each other. Yeah, so it's a square table and she's here and you're there. That's fine too, because we're basically, same thing as I was talking about yesterday on the couch with the role play, is that we can look at each other and make clear eye contact, but the natural default is to be here, right? So if don't move. So you're there, I'm here. All right, so at the square table, cool. Blah, 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 can touch, look away. That creates the psychological space. We can look and, you know, gossip about, oh my God, do you think she's a slut or whatever? And then, you know, touching under the table, making a point here, and doing heavy intent when and if needed, works totally well. If we're at the booth, at the cocktail lounge, da-da-da, leaning in, whispering in, not like this. You don't whisper in, so you feel a difference?
Yeah.
Yeah. I was thinking, do you think the bartender's gay or not, as opposed to, do you think that, yeah.
Yeah, wow.
So we have the difference between psychological space and actual space. Right? Even though this is actually technically closer physically, this feels closer.
Yeah.
Right? So these are the things where what makes a good date is logistics, it's cozy, and there's something to do together, which is drinking a cup of tea or whatever, but trying to impress her or doing something complicated is unnecessary and usually won't work. I usually keep a date, how long in length of time would you think would be ideal? Length of time. Guess.
An hour, maybe.
Any other bids?
45, 40 minutes.
Oh, he's going for 45, going for 40, we've got 45. Can we hear 35? 35, he's coming in at 30. Can we get laid in 19 minutes and 36 seconds? Only Australians would understand that one, right?
Yes. And they often race.
And often race on everything. All right, yes, you're both right. So keeping it short-ish, like maximum, like sometimes, you know, I had a 2-hour date the other day with that who'd arrived, and we did like a little tour of the world here. Okay, because we actually had 4 dates in one. We went, I met her, I was talking to you, I stopped her and I said, see you later. I was getting into getting into a big conversation. I'm like, actually, we'll do this tomorrow. Thank you. So I walked with her. First, we went and got a coffee, picked it up. Then we walked to the thing over to the Arc de Triomphe, and we did some photos and had some fun. Then we walked into the park, and then there was the salsa class, and we went over there and I actually showed her my 2 moves in salsa. That's a different date. And then we came back around and sat on one of these benches and had the like deep and meaningful one where I made, you know, went to hold her hand and she didn't really respond, but she didn't reject me. So I'm like, okay, she needs a bit more time. And then we had a hug and I sent her off, and then she moved to another country the next day. So that was like 2 hours, but it was really like 4 dates in one, right? So the different, you got to think also about like the perceived time versus the actual time. So if I'm only going to do one thing, which mostly I do, which is go and have a coffee and a walk, go and have a drink, you know, come and get some wine and cheese and come and sit in the park, right? That's an awesome date, cheap date, cool date. Then yeah, I want to keep it about, you know, up to 2 hours if we've got a good vibe and it's fun and we're enjoying it. But around the hour-ish mark, don't get stuck on that as a rule either, where it's like, oh, it's been an hour and now I have to try and take her home. But the vibe is she just needs a bit more time. That, you know, she's not super that yet comfortable with me, so another half an hour is better to spend there than trying to rush it back home. You get what I'm saying? Okay. So just on that, what the types of dates, I've mentioned a couple. So what are some other types of dates which might not be that useful? So we said movie, we said sitting opposite each other in a formal dinner setting. Think logistics.
Somewhere far from your house.
Right. So, you know, going on we have to catch a train out of the city and then go and see this amazing thing. The thing might be amazing, but, and there might be a reason for that, because it's a secluded beach and we can fuck on the beach, right? Like, you know, we don't have to fuck in your own bed, but if we go all the way to a place and there's nowhere we can get in any way intimate, and then we have to come all the way back, and by the time we get back we're tired and sunburned, right? That's not a good first date. It's too complex. Logistics don't help us. And there's another problem with, if I've chosen like a special thing, like I know, like in my city, right, in Budapest for example, there's a cafe called, I don't know if it's open anymore, but Pet Cafe or Zoo Cafe or something. And you can go and order a tea, and then you'll get a live animal with your tea. So you can get a porcupine, a rabbit, various doped up owls, lizards, all sorts of shit, and they'll just put it on the table, and it's really shouldn't be there because I'm sure it's not good for the animals. But that's a cool day, right? Now, it's a bit far away from my house, and I have gone there with a girl when we were wandering in that area, and I said, oh, let's come into this very inappropriate cafe, it's crazy, and done that. But if I was to like, oh, that's a really interesting thing, and you know, girls like rabbits, so I'll trek halfway across the city to try and impress her, then we have the same logistical issue, and we also have another issue which you heard me ranting about the other day, which was what? Remember when I was screaming at him about the choice about the interaction?
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, he's trying to talk himself up.
Not even something else. He's trying to talk something else up. Oh, okay. I'll refresh you. So the other day, like when he was in set, he's actually quite advanced with his game now, right? Like he's got a lot of good things going on. But what he was trying to do was steer the conversation towards that he knew about tapas, and he knew the best tapas in Barcelona, and this place where you get this really interesting cocktail, and taking a long time to do it, and then at the end asking her out, and she said no. And when I said, why are you doing that? He says, because I'm trying to line up the date, and I get it immediately. He thinks that because, like, if he can take her to somewhere impressive, because he knows the best tupper or he knows this cool cocktail place, that then she'll want to go on a date with him because she wants to go and get the tapas. It's a complete wrong mindset. That's why I was shouting at him. He could take it. He's Irish, he can take it. Because it's like, the event is not irrelevant, but it's not the primary thing. It's that we get to spend time together and hang out, and we happen to be at the pet cafe, or we happen to just get a coffee and go and sit in the park. That's way better than me trying to impress her with money, status, something that I know that's amazing. Now, look, you know, for example, in your town, you've got tourists coming through. Like that girl that I did talk to and took on a date was like, I did show her things that she wouldn't have seen before, and that was kind of part of the magic of it. But that wasn't the like, oh, you just arrived, look, why don't you come with me? There's a salsa thing in the park. It's really amazing, you know, everyone's dancing. So, you know, that's me trying to sell the date as opposed to, let's go walk. Actually, I know there's something fun happening over here. Let's pop in. And then she's like, wow, that is impressive, because that's like a moment in time and with a man who knows the city, and I got to have a different type of experience than I would have walking by myself. But it could have just as easily, we could have just walked and sat there, and we would have had probably just, you know, a different type of good time. Does that make sense? Okay. What do you think you talk about on dates?
Nothing too serious.
Like, you know, like childhood traumas and stuff? Yeah.
Well, last time you were hospitalized or something.
Yeah, unless the, you know, like...
There's a funny story.
Yeah, like, those ones are better to do, but like, talk about scars, right? Like, you know, sometimes a girl notices I have a scar here and she says, what's the story? And I go, oh, you know, crocodiles and fucking kangaroo having a fight, and then next thing you know, fucking brown snakes in there, and fucking I was there. And then I say, no, I just fell over when I was a child. And then I might say, have you got any cool scars? Now, that has led to both interesting stories and actually sometimes kind of like sad stories, but like that's a natural, it just went there because she had some surgery scar and something, and I'm not going to go, oh, well, no, we're not talking about that. If it goes there, but I'm not going to dwell on it all day. You know, well, I'm glad you're alive still. Yeah, cool. So, anyway, and moving on to something else. So, yes, what else? Conversation-wise. To do or not do, I mean. And keep an eye out for the chai man if you see him.
I mean, it's like one thing that would still apply like in the approach, and then also at the date is also just like getting her to share a little bit more about herself and you sharing more about you, right?
Yeah, like that's where we're going to do a lot more of that. So yes, you're right, that it's like an extension of the approach. It doesn't mean we have to do deep and meaningful, right? Because remember, when we're finding out about somebody, sometimes it's not a mistake, but the misunderstanding that a lot of guys have early on is that if I want to get personal, I have to talk about passions, hopes, dreams, values, like big things. Which, yeah, I mean, sometimes, and they'll come up and I might go there, but like, let me describe it like just a bunch of random things about myself that are not like, you know, I don't need to like tell my psychologist about them or whatever. They're not super deep, right? I'm a bit grumpy in the morning until I've had my coffee. I'm a procrastinator, but I always get everything done that's important, even if it's at the last minute. I prefer to have like be around 2 to 3 to 4 really good friends than I do to be around massive crowds of, you know, people just for acquaintances' sake. I used to hate cats, and then I got a cat that arrived, and now I fucking love my cat and hate all the other cats. You know, right now I'm really into ancient history, and I've just been like getting deep into ancient Mesopotamia. It takes quite a bit to get me angry, but when you get me angry, I'm terrifying, and you don't want to get me angry, right? Like, that's a bunch of stuff that's not like what's my deepest passion in life and what's my core values in life? It tells you bits about me as a person day to day, right? So keep that in mind as you're talking to a woman. You don't, like, I can see that sometimes in the role play, like, okay, what's another question? Like, what do you mean, what's another question? It's like, are you an introvert? Are you sneaky sometimes? What's a bad habit that you've got? Tea or coffee person, binaries, any binary thing, tea or coffee, morning or night owl, whatever. But you don't do more than one of those in a conversation or it sounds weird. Because if you go, leather or lace, tell me. Very interesting. I'm more of a lace kind of guy. Myself, cats or dogs? What are you into? They are loyal, but they're stupid. I'm a cat person. Now I'm a weirdo. If I just did the one, it's cool. If I did, now I'm the either or guy. Nope. Right, so it's just one thing you can do. Okay, there you go, like, all right, got one of those per date. But you see what I mean in terms of like the types of things we talk about, you know, what are like everyday topics? Hit me with a bunch. Work, including what? What can be included within work? Subtopics. Absolutely, that's a good one. The dynamics between the people in the workplace, because that's always exists, and there's always drama, or there's gossip, or there's tension, or there's romance, or there's something, I hope. Otherwise people are just like in their cubicles, I am a robot. there is another one. I don't know, is that what happens in offices?
It depends on the office.
Depends on the office. We have a fun one where we have a ping pong table. We are allowed to use it for 3 minutes per day. Back to my cubicle. Is that how it works? Yeah, right. Yeah, fucking right. Right, so that's very good because let's say you ask a girl, okay, where do you work? She says, I'm a beautician. And you're like, oh, fuck, I don't know. That's it. Boring. And yeah, open up. Let the cunt in. I don't know anything about beautician shit. I'm not a girl. So then you go, oh, well, what do you want to do when you really finish that? She's like, what? Instead, you're like, cool, what's it like being a beautician? Do people tell you all their secrets like they do to hairdressers? They do. When you're ripping hair out of someone's pussy, they'll tell you anything, I think. So yeah, the politics, the dynamics. If she's a boss of a team or something, are you a badass boss? Are you cruel? Are you fair? You know, if she's a subordinate, how do you manipulate your boss? You know, do you sometimes chuck sick days when you're not sick? Right? Do you use your feminine charms to get away with stuff, etc., etc.? Right? Like there's lots of subtopics within work that are about the human elements of work. So that's a good one. Keep that in mind. All right. What else? Topics?
Hobbies.
Right. So you'll get away with saying the word hobby in a non-English speaking country, but if you do that in Sydney and you say to a girl, "What's your hobby?" You're a dad. You hear me? Right? Because it's not cool in Australia to say, "Oh, so what are your hobbies?" She's like, okay, uncle. Yeah, it's like, it really is an uncle conversation, you know, it's like, what's the niece or niece? Oh yeah, how you doing, Fatima? Yeah, haven't seen you since last Christmas, so yeah, how's university? Oh, right, yeah, and is there any good jobs that you can get with that? Gender study, what? Okay, yeah, all right. And so what are your hobbies these days? And she's like, oh, uncle boring. So, what's a cooler way to say, what are your hobbies?
What do you do for fun? What do you like to do for fun?
Yeah, which is slightly less dad, but still uncle dad. Yeah, it's fine.
I like to blow off steam.
Yeah, how do you blow off steam? Yeah, what's some other ones? Let's get cooler. Let's go from Switzerland to Germany to Vienna. Come on, let's get cool as Vienna. What are you into at the moment? Yeah, what's something cool you've been doing?
What's the last song you had on repeat?
What's the
Last song you had on repeat.
cool? What's the last song you had on repeat? Yep, because that's a like, what kind of musical hobby do you have? And like, yeah, that's a good one. Like, so these are like the what are your hobbies kinds of things. And again, rather than saying what are your passions, which is a weird uncle. Yeah. What's the other ways to say what are your passions or what are you passionate about? I've said a couple. What are you really into at the moment? What else?
What do you love?
Yeah. What do you love? Yeah. What can't you live without? What can you not live without? You know what I'm trying to say.
What can't you say no to?
Yeah. So yeah, what's your vice? What's your guilty pleasure? What can't you say no to? Yeah, that's how you say it. What can't you say no to? But like guilty pleasure, what's your vice? What's your addiction? What are you addicted to? You know, like everyone's addicted to something. So I asked them that, and it's, you know, it could be anything from heroin to green tea. Yeah, or mix them together. Oh yeah, it's like a matcha smack latte.
Smack, all right.
Yeah, matcha smack. That would sell. Gives you a little boost and then like chills you out. Next thing you know, you're sucking a truck driver's dick for $5. What? Cool. What was I talking about? Topics, other topics. So we've got hobbies, otherwise known as stuff you like doing. We have, what was the first one? When you said, yeah, work, etc. stuff. Work, sub work stuff. What else? Travel. Yeah, yep. So if we said, do you like to travel? That's an uncle. And look, have I said that? Yeah. And will I say it again at some point in an interaction? Yeah. These are not deal breakers, but we want to think about casual phrasing, cooler phrasing, getting to, like, helping the person navigate, because everyone likes to travel except the few people that don't, right? So, do you like to travel? She's like, yeah, obviously. And then you're like, oh, cool, well, yeah, I like to travel too. And then she's like, oh, cool, Uncle Boring. Cool story, Uncle Boring. As opposed to, have you got any fun trips coming up soon? What's the plan for summer? Are you going to travel? What did you do? Like, did you, after the lockdown, did you blow off steam by traveling somewhere and doing something, right? Like there's lots of ways we can look at travel, which is movement out of the city block that you usually hang out in.
How did you survive lockdown?
Yeah, like, and you know, like, what did you learn about, I mean, I did a bunch of those, now it's kind of, everyone's forgotten about it. But yeah, what did you learn about yourself during lockdown that you didn't like? You know, there's all sorts of things that we can use. Just, it's the beginning of the week. What's the plans for the weekend? She's like, I'm going out of town. Oh, do you like to travel? No, we don't need to do that. Where are you off to? Cool. Oh, fuck, that sounds like a great way to spend the weekend getting out of the city and getting into nature, right? So these are, like, think of it a bit more intelligently. Yes, travel, yes, friends, yes, work, yes, hobbies, but let's talk about it in a way that, like, a cool dude who's interested in the woman would talk to the girl about it. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I was thinking of friends and family is also a topic, but you kind of just said it is. So.
Yeah, and so, like, look, because, you know, sometimes you ask, you know, what do you like doing? She says shopping and hanging out with my friends, and you're like, fuck, all right, well, that's boring, and I don't know what to say now. Because and girls will often say that, even if they have other interests, because it's the people usually answer the easiest thing. Right? So unless you dig a bit, qualify or put a bit of pressure, they'll typically give you the easy answer, which is not necessarily the most interesting answer. So she says, oh yeah, you know, like hang out with my friends, going to shopping and, you know, going out. And you're like, shit, well, then you say, what's your crew like? Yeah? Or are they, you've just moved to town, you said, so they're new friends or they're old friends? Okay, she says, oh, like I knew some people from back in my old city, but we've met some new friends. Oh, that sounds fun. It's like a new mix of old blood, new blood. I'm sure there'll be lots of drama, right? And then tell me, like, so in your crew, like, what's your role? Like, are you the peacemaker? Are you the boss bitch? Are you the one who makes sure that everyone gets home safe? Are you the confidant? I'm not going to list all those, but you can see what I'm getting at. It's like, now I'm learning about the dynamic of her and her friends as opposed to, oh, so, and what do you do with your friends? We go out. Oh, and where do you go out? We go to the club. And, oh, and, you know, what time do you usually arrive at the club? Or something. You're like, I don't know what to talk about. Yeah, it's like when you girls go out, do you cause trouble? And she'll be like, yeah, ooh, no, absolutely not, or whatever. And then we can play with that, right? So the dynamics of her family, friends, life, the dynamic of her work life, like she's a student, right? So tell me, so what are you doing at the moment? Like studying, working?
Yeah, I'm studying.
Okay, and what are you studying?
So just like anything, or?
You just answer, yeah.
Yeah, biology.
Oh, right, interesting. Which year are you in?
Marine biology.
No, like what year? Like first, second, third?
Yeah, it's second year.
Okay, so about halfway through. Yeah, that's cool. So I guess you must be enjoying it enough if you stayed this long.
I mean, I want to finish it.
Yeah. And what are you going to do after, you know, when you finish the biology? You're going to do masters or you're going to try something else? What's your plan after that?
I don't really know yet. Like, I'm just studying for the moment.
Right, okay. But like, what's, for example, some options like jobs you could get after you, hang on a second. Some options that you could have like for work after that.
I mean, I could do research.
And if you were to do research, like, did you say marine biology or just normal biology?
Yeah, marine biology.
Oh, so would you do boring uncle who's interested in you? Like, I'm showing interest, but she's a second year, which means she's 20. And yeah, she's going to uni, and she said, yeah, I want to finish it, good one. But she's like, okay, uncle, me talking about like what I'm going to do in 7 years with this undergraduate degree, she doesn't really care or know, right? So, have I done a conversation like that and still made it work? Yeah, probably. The delivery and various other things, and then I might move on to another topic. It's not the end of the world, but it's just very rudimentary, and it doesn't really take into account. She's a 20-year-old uni student, so she's probably doing some other stuff other than just studying. Unless if she's a medical student, or one of those other ones, asterisk ones where you have to study all the time, then maybe that study is all she does. But if she's doing basic biology or an arts degree of any sort, or anything that's not like extremely complex science or law, then she's doing lots of other shit outside, trust me. So, so are you studying, working at the moment?
I study.
Do you leave everything to the last minute, or do you plan things properly?
I try to finish them a little bit earlier than last minute. I don't like the pressure of a deadline.
Okay, but like a couple of days before, like you actually do plan it?
I mean...
or is there a lot of stress where you're like, fuck it, I got to get this thing done tomorrow. I'm going to stay up all night drinking Tabasco sauce?
No, usually I get them done in time, like without too much stress, because I like to start working on it when I get the task.
Oh, right. Oh, well, I'm quite impressed actually. When I was at college, no, I was definitely a last minute type of person. I did get it done, but it is quite stressful. So outside of class, what are you doing with yourself mostly?
I mean, I like to go partying on the weekends, also just like tanning myself at the beach sometimes, playing some volleyball.
Oh, okay, that's a good mix. So you're not like a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, getting fucking wasted and then doing it again on the weekend. You're actually disciplined enough to...
Yeah, I don't drink that much. Like even if I go party, I try to like 1 or 2 drinks. I cannot take that much alcohol.
Right, me too, at my age, absolutely. I can take, a couple of shots of heroin, like, 2 pipes of DMT and a bottle of Jack Daniels, and then I'm done. I'm so done. That was just a joke for me. So, did you make new crew friends when you were when you first moved here, or you've got old friends who came with you to uni? Like, what's your crew like?
Yeah, I came here by myself, so I found some pretty cool friends at the uni. Also, the volleyball group I play with. There's some nice people there.
Totally, and I guess very fit people as well.
Well,
which is keeps you accountable. Do you think any of them will be lifelong friends? Okay, pause. So, I'm talking about uni, but I've had some jokes. I've found out like a bit about the way she is as a person. She's not, one of those Asian kids whose parents chain them to a desk and study 10 hours every day, the ones. Yeah, and they do become doctors. It works. And they can play the piano. And they can do 6 other things. Yep. But she's also not the guy who went to study like a bit of like sociology, man, and then was just like high the whole time. Arts, baby. That's what I did for the 1 year I went to uni. I was like, I'm gonna go learn some interesting stuff. Oh, I've been in class for like 20 minutes. That'll do. We go out, smoke some weed, and like, I'll start to read the textbook, but then I'll think, actually, I reckon I already know this better than them. I'll start writing my manifesto as a poem, but then I'll be like, now I'm going to go and get a fucking Chico roll. So she's, cool, now we're finding out what type of student is she. Yeah, she's getting it done, and she's also having fun, and she's doing some sports stuff. Okay, cool, that's a cool student life, right? That's what we're looking at, her student life. Studies and the rest. Otherwise, I'm the uncle who's like, oh, and then, what semester and how many things have you got left to do and da-da-da, which is not cool. Does that make sense? Any thoughts or reflections?
Very helpful. Yeah. That's what I'm doing.
You're doing uncle chats?
Not so cool uncle.
Yeah. I'm the cool uncle. If I do hope, no, they'd keep me away from them. Dude, have you ever considered having a really weird life? Good day, gentlemen. I hope you enjoyed this little behind-the-scenes sneak peek inside one of our live workshops. Now, our very last live seduction workshop for the year is coming up very soon, from the 14th until the 17th of September in New York City, Manhattan, USA. So if you'd like to join us, there is literally 1 spot left. Click the link below, get on a call with one of our team, and hopefully we'll see you in Manhattan. And for the guys who are perhaps new here and you'd like to get started, right now I'm offering my 3-part free video series where I show you how to go from high to your first date. So this is your basic toolkit on how to use day game seduction to get off the apps and stop waiting and hoping for something to happen and start making something happen. So to get that free series, all you need to do is click the link in the description, put your email in, and you'll receive it immediately. And now I'm off, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.